get a double-barrel shotgun, have the shells, a 12-gauge shotgun, and I promise you, as I told my wife, we live in an area that's wooded and somewhat secluded. I said, Jill, if there's ever a problem, just walk out on the balcony here, or walk out, put that double-barrel shotgun, and fire 2 blasts outside the house. I promise you, who's ever coming in is not going to...
That was Vice President Joe Biden sharing some firearms advice for women worried about their safety. That answer came during an online gun control forum earlier this week that was organized by Parents Magazine. The Vice President's controversial remarks have set off a social media firestorm of criticism from the left and the right. But almost as interesting is what he said about the question itself. You may not have heard this part of the exchange. Here is the first part of Mr. Biden's response.
Kate Ernest has the next question. She asks, do you believe that banning certain weapons and high-capacity magazines will mean that law-abiding citizens will then become more of a target to criminals, as we will have no way to sufficiently protect ourselves?
Is this Parents Magazine?
It is.
I have Parents Magazine in my home. I've never heard anybody in Parents Magazine ask these kinds of questions, but I'm delighted to answer them.
Joining me now is Kate Ernest. She's the woman who asked that question that touched off the Vice President's response. Kate, it's great to have you. So the Vice President seemed to doubt whether you, as a parent of a baby who's just over 1, would legitimately be asking in a Parents Magazine forum a question about gun control. Why did you do that?
Well, I mean, there's been a lot of media recently about gun control. And as a parent who has weapons in my home, I just wanted to know, in terms of placing bans on certain weapons or magazines, you're going to remove them from the hands of the good guy. No criminals are going to go turning in their weapons. My question was, if he claims that our police officers are being outgunned, should we be outgunned in our homes as well? Or does he feel like proposing that ban will somehow affect criminals?
Were you satisfied
so that's
with
why I had originally asked.
Were you satisfied with his answer? Because he talked about how the advice he gives to his wife Jill. You go out there if there's trouble with a double-barrel shotgun and you fire 2 warning shots, and trust me, that'll be the end of the matter. Not to worry.
Right. Well, the advice is probably some of the poorest advice he could give anyone, let alone a loved one, his wife. For anybody who knows anything about guns, they would know that a double-barrel shotgun only holds 2 rounds. So once she goes out in plain sight and fires those 2 rounds, she's a sitting duck. She has no more ammunition. And in a high-pressure situation, is she going to sit there and fumble with shells to reload it? I highly doubt it. I think it was poor advice, and it comes off a little sexist. Like, let me tell you what you need, versus, arm yourself or protect yourself in a way that you feel necessary.
What did you make of him questioning whether the question you asked in the first place was appropriate?
I mean, I don't feel like I'm the first person by any means to have asked that question or a question like it. I feel like it's been on a lot of people's minds wondering how, proposing such a thing when there's so many already in circulation is going to have any effect whatsoever other than disarming, law-abiding citizens who have these things to protect themselves and their families in their home.
And so, I mean, he tried to tell you that an AR-15 is not as easy to fire as a shotgun. We had a gun expert on the other day who said that's provably not true, that an AR-15 is
completely false.
Much easier to fire than a shotgun is. But as you may know, Kate, the AR-15, it was used, perhaps because it's so easy to fire, it was used in a couple of these mass shootings we saw, including that Colorado movie massacre and another one, a recent shooting at the Oregon Mall. And so the weapon itself is controversial. Your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, I understand that they want to say, this weapon looks scary, it's a military-designed weapon, and that perhaps, it's falling in the wrong hands. But the fact is, there's so many in circulation that, if somebody wants to get their hands on one, they'll have access to it one way or another. you know, whether it be stricter, you know, regulations on purchasing guns or magazines or whatever, they're still unfortunately going to have that access or find another means, you know, to have that kind of mass killing effect. I feel like it's just a little bit counterproductive, and it's just wasting, you know, legislation's time for something that's probably not going to affect criminals at all.